take my chance, and give him the interview. Only let me get him alone, only let me escape the prying eyes of the women, and, if his friend doesn't come between us, I answer for the result. In the meantime, have I anything more to tell you? Are there any other people in our way at Thorpe Ambrose? Not another creature. None of the resident families call here, young Armadale being, most fortunately, in bad odor in the neighborhood. There are no handsome, highly bred women to come to the house, and no persons of consequence to protest against his attentions to a governess. The only guests he could collect at his party to-night were the lawyer and his family, a wife, a son, and 2 daughters, and a deaf old woman and her son, all perfectly unimportant people, and all obedient humble servants of the stupid young squire. Talking of obedient humble servants, there is one other person established here, who is employed in the steward's office, a miserable, shabby, dilapidated old man, named Bashwood. He is a perfect stranger to me, and I am evidently a perfect stranger to him, for he has been asking the housemaid at the cottage who I am. It is paying no great compliment to myself to confess it, but it is not the less true that I produced the most extraordinary impression on this feeble old creature the first time he saw me. He turned all manner of colors, and stood trembling and staring at me, as if there was something perfectly frightful in my face. I felt quite startled for the moment, for, of all the ways in which men have looked at me, no man ever looked at me in that way before. Did you ever see the boa constrictor fed at the Zoological Gardens? They put a live rabbit into his cage, and there is a moment when the 2 creatures look at each other. I declare Mr. Bashwood reminded me of the rabbit. Why do I mention this? I don't know why. Perhaps I have been writing too long, and my head is beginning to fail me. Perhaps Mr. Bashwood's manner of admiring me strikes my fancy by its novelty. Absurd! I am exciting myself and troubling you about nothing. Oh, what a very long letter I have written, and how brightly the stars look at me through the window, and how awfully quiet the night is! Send me some more of those sleeping drops, and write me one of your nice, wicked, amusing letters. You shall hear from me again as soon as I know a little better how it is all likely to end. Good night, and keep a corner in your stony old heart for L.G. 3. From Mrs. Oldershaw to Miss Gwilt. Diana Street, Pimlico, Monday. My dear Lydia, I am in no state of mind to write you an amusing letter. Your news is very discouraging, and the recklessness of your tone quite alarms me. Consider the money I have already advanced, and the interests we both have at stake. Whatever else you are, don't be reckless, for heaven's sake. What can I do? I ask myself, as a woman of business, what can I do to help you? I can't give you advice, for I am not on the spot, and I don't know how circumstances may alter from one day to another. Situated as we are now, I can only be useful in one way. I can discover a new obstacle that threatens you, and I think I can remove it. You say, with great truth, that there never was a prospect yet without an ugly place in it, and that there are 2 ugly places in your prospect. My dear, there may be 3 ugly places, if I don't bestir myself to prevent it, and the name of the 3rd place will be Brock. Is it possible you can refer, as you have done, to the Somersetshire clergyman, and not see that the progress you make with young Armadale will be, sooner or later, reported to him by young Armadale's friend? Why, now I think of it, you are doubly at the parson's mercy. You are at the mercy of any fresh suspicion which may bring him into the neighborhood himself at a day's notice, and you are at the mercy of his interference the moment he hears that the squire is committing himself with a neighbor's governess. If I can do nothing else, I can keep this additional difficulty out of your way. And oh, Lydia, with what alacrity I shall exert myself, after the manner in which the old wretch insulted me when I told him that pitiable story in the street! I declare I tingle with pleasure at this new prospect of making a fool of Mr. Brock. And how is it to be done? Just as we have done it already, to be sure. He has lost Miss Gwilt, otherwise my housemaid, hasn't he? Very well, he shall find her again, wherever he is now, suddenly settled within easy reach of him. As long as she stops in the place, he will stop in it. And as we know he is not at Thorpe Ambrose, there you are free of him. The old gentleman's suspicions have given us a great deal of trouble so far. Let us turn them to some profitable account at last. Let us tie him, by his suspicions, to my housemaid's apron string. Most refreshing. Quite a moral retribution, isn't it? The only help I need trouble you for is help you can easily give. Find out from Mr. Midwinter where the parson is now, and let me know by return of post. If he is in London, I will personally assist my housemaid in the necessary mystification of him. If he is anywhere else, I will send her after him, accompanied by a person on whose discretion I can implicitly rely. You shall have the sleeping drops to-morrow. In the meantime, I say at the end what I said at the beginning: no recklessness. Don't encourage poetical feelings by looking at the stars, and don't talk about the night being awfully quiet. There are people in observatories paid to look at the stars for you. Leave it to them. And as for the night, do what Providence intended you to do with the night when Providence provided you with eyelids. Go to sleep in it. Affectionately yours, Maria Oldershaw. 4. From the Reverend Decimus Brock to Ozias Midwinter. Bascombe Rectory, West Somerset, Thursday, July 8. My dear Midwinter, one line before the post goes out, to relieve you of all sense of responsibility at Thorpe Ambrose, and to make my apologies to the lady who lives as governess in Major Milroy's family. The Miss Gwilt, or perhaps I ought to say, the woman calling herself by that name, has, to my unspeakable astonishment, openly made her appearance here, in my own parish. She is staying at the inn, accompanied by a plausible-looking man who passes as her brother. What this audacious proceeding really means, unless it marks a new step in the conspiracy against Allan, taken under new advice, is, of course, more than I can yet find out. My own idea is, that they have recognized the impossibility of getting at Allan without finding me, or you, as an obstacle in their way, and that they are going to make a virtue of necessity by boldly trying to open their communications through me. The man looks capable of any stretch of audacity, and both he and the woman had the impudence to bow when I met them in the village half an hour since. They have been making inquiries already about Allan's mother here, where her exemplary life may set their closest scrutiny at defiance. If they will only attempt to extort money, as the price of the woman's silence on the subject of poor Mrs. Armadale's conduct in Madeira at the time of her marriage, they will find me well prepared for them beforehand. I have written by this post to my lawyers to send a competent man to assist me, and he will stay at the rectory, in any character which he thinks it safest to assume under present circumstances. You shall hear what happens in the next day or two. Always truly yours, Decimus Brock. End of chapter. Recording by Nadine Nicot-Boulet.